Welcome to Catapult Leadership with Catherine Fitzgerald and eXp Realty Realtor Linda Peltz. What is the solution to stabilize your company in this crazy world? Business impacts on employees and how to save your business. Give every employee a voice and help them understand how to be a better employee and help the bottom line of the company. Doesn't matter what industry, increase your security and stabilize the company, increase your bottom dollar and give your employee a voice. Calling all realtors, come on over to eXp Realty and stabilize your business. But in the meantime, let's talk with Catherine Fitzgerald and see how she does it with every industry. Hello, everybody. This is Realtor Linda Peltz. Today we are with Catherine Fitzgerald, and I'm going to let her take it from here and introduce herself.
Well, hi, Linda. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here. Yes, I am Catherine Fitzgerald, and I am a certified business coach here in Fresno area, but I work internationally, and I have been doing that for about 2.5 years. And my focus is working with business owners who are looking to implement a system, an operating system that would give every employee and every employee's perspective a voice in the say of the company. And how that happens is through teaching financial literacy to the employees so that they understand how the money flows through the business and what their role has in terms of impact and the decisions they make on the financials. And when the
you've had a year of it.
So when
you are well needed, my friend.
That's right. So I have, one of the things that happens a lot of times is that employees are asked to just do your job, just keep it at your desk. And they don't really, employers don't think to ask or engage the employee about, the big picture. Because they think, well, I'm the head of the company, I should know this. And a lot of them take that on as very serious liability. I have all these families to make sure that they get their paycheck every week, and I have to do this for them. And it's a very big weight on the shoulders of the owner. But the great game of business kind of it works with the employer, or the CEO, but it empowers their team to engage on a totally different level. So what I often say,
a better employee out of it. I mean,
yeah,
family.
You don't know. Yeah, you do not know what an employee has to offer until you ask, and many times they don't ask. And so what I say is we're asking the employees to put on the lens of the finances to look through as they make their decisions every day. But also there is a perspective that employee, wherever they are in the company, has that the employer can't have because he's not there. The other thing is CEOs live at the landscape level. They're looking at the whole picture all the time. They know all the different parts, the moving parts, and what levers to pull and what to push and how to work it all together. A lot of times they assume the employee has that, and then they go to their desk and they do this. But really what happens is that an employee enters the business, and their first concern is, what is the culture and how does it impact me? And their second one is the operations. What are the operations? What are the systems in place, and how does it impact me? They might, depending on their role, get into the marketing piece of it, like who are our customers and how can I help support those customers. Mostly that's a sales role. Yes, exactly. Mostly that's salespeople.
Try a little different.
Exactly, but it's very rare for an employee to have a financial perspective about the company. And we see things where companies just fold up their doors and lay everybody off, and it's just an absolute shock to the employee. Now this year we saw it, and everybody knew, oh, it's the pandemic. But going back a few years, you may remember the movie The Life of Pi. It was an Oscar-winning film, and it was the special effects specifically company won the Oscar for best special effects, and they created new things that had never been used before because everything in that film was a special effect except for the actor. There was no real tiger, there was no real boat, he was not in the ocean. And so that company, the day they accepted that Oscar, had just 10 days before laid off over 200 people and had, basically had filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Oh my
so,
God.
And the employees were in a work environment where they were the envy of Hollywood. They had like the equivalent of a Google campus with the Danishes every morning and bring your dog to work and, here's massage, here's this, here's that, and it all came into their campus. So somebody was making decisions to keep the employees really happy, but they didn't have financial literacy because they weren't paying attention to the business. And so, these people were laid off with no warning, and they're sitting watching the Oscars, realizing they did world-class work and they were fired or laid off. And so, the bottom line for me is an employee has a right to know what is going on. And the employer has an incredible wealth of knowledge that they haven't harnessed because they haven't asked the question. So for me, it's about, that bringing those two things together. And it comes really from my background, having worked with Catholic Charities as the CEO for 5 years. I watched the line get bigger and longer, and we couldn't make a dent in what was going on down there. And I felt so frustrated because I really wanted to help people to improve the quality of their life, not just exist. And, social services is very well intentioned to give people incentive to improve their life, like go to school at City College and get additional funding, do things like that for units. But that carrot and the stick approach with a personal life is not really as effective as learning financial literacy in a job environment, because pretty soon, without anybody saying a word, the light bulb goes on and they think, just like there's revenue that goes through the business that comes in at the top as a sale and ends up at the bottom as net profit, the same thing happens with my paycheck every month. Rent, PG&E, food, all of those things come out of that paycheck. And when they start to see that if I save a dollar in the middle in terms of the expenses, it goes right to the bottom line, and I have more ability to save and to build, and it's not done as a mandate. It's just something that happens, and we have the evidence to prove it. This was founded on a principle. The Great Game System was founded in Springfield, Missouri in the early 80s during a really tough time in our economy. Unemployment was 22%. Bank loans were 17% for a commercial loan, and they actually paid 18% for their loan of $8.9 million to buy this plant. And what happened was they were a International Harvester plant International Harvester was going out of business, and they were losing $60,000 an hour internationally. So they decided they were going to start closing plants to be able to save jobs. And so they called Jack Stack, who was the general manager of the plant, and said, shut it down. And it was 119 jobs gone like that. So he just couldn't bring himself to do that. He had that, I've got to protect everybody leader kind of mindset. And he sat down with the 12 department heads and said, okay, what can we do here? What do you think we could do to save these jobs? And somebody popped off and said, hey, let's buy it. And so they went, home and talked to their wives and found out how much they could contribute to buy the plant. And they came up with $100,000, and International Harvester wanted $9 million to buy the plant. And so that's when they went looking for this loan. Yes. So he signed a loan on behalf of this, Springfield Remanufacturing Plant, as they titled it. And they decided that they could not make a mistake. The loan payment alone was $138,000 a month. And so the only way that they could were invested at that he said everybody needs to know the real scoreboard, because they were measuring the quality of their parts and then the amount of their sales, but they were not looking at the financials. And so he said we need to teach them the financials so that everybody knows because I can't afford for anybody to make a mistake. We don't have any extra. And so when they started that process of training the employees, they were able to pay off that loan in 3 years. And today, the Springfield remanufacturing plant is company is part of a holding corporation that is basically, the foundation belief is the company is the product. Whatever you're manufacturing is not the product. The company is the product. You have to do everything to save the company, and you can pivot in any direction, but maintain the company.
The company is those employees' lives. I mean, that's what's keeping them afloat, keeping their family together.
That's right. And so they are 100% employee owned, and they issued stock at 10 cents a share back in 1983. And if you and I, they now have a holding corporation over the top, and they have 10 business units, one of which is the coaching arm. If you and I had $1,000 worth of stock that we had held from the original 10 cents a share, today we would both have $7.6 million in our employment retirement fund.
Well, yeah. I'm hoping to get there with this brokerage, because they're set up very similar to that, which is I moved over to EXP this last year during COVID, right? Because we're all going virtual and online, and I needed a better umbrella, for a brokerage, and they're similar to that. So they just did a stock split, right? Here not too long. They're the only brokerage out there that's traded on the NASDAQ. Maybe someday I will be in that boat.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. So it's a wonderful thing. And employee stock option plans are, an institutional mechanism where the employee doesn't put a dime in it. It's put in by the company in their name, and they get to collect it when they retire. So they have
the property that they map it to a certain amount.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
You can invest, and then they'll match.
They'll match it. Yeah.
The only brokerage out there that I found that something similar like that.
Yeah, that is really.
I love it. So hopefully, some of the other realtors. I know we've all been struggling. Not all of us, but quite a few of us have been, struggling finding the sellers out there through this COVID. Right? They just kind of freaked out on us and took our whole market away.
Well, and it's so really, it's
not all the buyers, it's just sellers. So.
It's very, it's a scary time when the world is shut down and you don't know what's going to happen. So even if they had plans in motion, sometimes I can see that paralysis of analysis, like, oh, let's wait and see, because we've had the year of natural disasters. I mean, when you think about it, the fires, the hurricanes, the deep freeze in Texas, it's just been nuts. And not to mention the pandemic. So I've seen them,
where there's like in holes in certain areas, like fires. You don't really sell too much, and you don't really close too much through the fires. But it's kind of a secluded area. But this has been like literally our sellers have disappeared out of the market. I mean, we're only putting out like, maybe 12 to 20 homes a day in the Fresno Clovis area, and we're closing more than that every day. We're going out the back end. We only have like a month maybe supply of homes, which creates a huge lack of inventory, and because we really need to be about 6 months supply in order to be an even market in my industry. But that's one industry out there. You are dealing with all these different industries and trying to. Now, do you deal more with the company owners, or do you actually coach some of the employees, or do you do both?
I do both. Yeah. If a company decides to implement the Great Game, then as the Great Game implementation process, I work with a small group of key employees that the owner selects. And usually the owner is involved too. And we meet every week, and then we meet just the owner and I every week also. So there's about a 12 to 15 week implementation period that we call it the design team, because we have a system, but you have a business, and way more about your business than I know about your business. So it's customizing the system to their business. So I use the employees to help feed, what is the customization going to look like? And then at the end of that 12 to 15 weeks, then we have what we call an all-team launch. And we started off actually with a 2-day workshop, and then we end it with a 1-day with the whole company. And one of the founding principles of the Great Game is that employees get a stake in the outcome. So there is a bonus program tied to the productivity and profitability of the company that is designed to help the company maintain stability and security, and everybody's paid, but it's a gain share. So anything above the basic, goals for the year, anything above that is split 50-50 with the employee and the owner. And of course, that's a discretionary bonus, but that's how that works.
You're kind of restructuring the company, but not necessarily telling them how to do their job.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and it's a decision.
On time.
Yeah, it's a decision each employer makes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then also. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I will put it also in the end scripts and different things for everybody. But I know you're kind of short on time and you need to.
Yeah.
But I so appreciate you coming on here.
Oh my goodness.
How you work and how you do. I really appreciate that.
Linda, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. So the best way to reach me is to go to my website, which is catapultleadershipgroup.com. There's a, schedule an appointment, complimentary introduction, little form on that website. It'll go straight to my inbox and we'll get you set up. But I do a lot of individual coaching. I also do transitional coaching. So I'm helping a lot of women that are in our age bracket right now that are transitioning to a new career. And, I also work with CEOs and startups. So I've got several startup ventures that I'm working with also. So there's a lot of different, lots of different things. So the Great Game is part of and if they look at my website, there's a full listing of all the things that I do. But I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. And
being on, I look forward to reading some of your blogs as you.
Yeah. Thank you. Now we've set it out in the world. Now I have to get it done.
Now you have to do it. That's my
right.
Hand. What did you say? Hand out.
Oh, hand out, hand up. You want to give them a hand up, not a hand out. That's right. That's right. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right.
Wonderful having you on, and I'm going to let you go now. Thank you so much for sharing with me. And
thank you.
That information, I'll get it out to everybody.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for joining me. Realtor Linda Peltz here. 559-353-4556. Make sure you like my channels and learn more great information on buying and selling your home. Hit those thumbs up, people, and I will see you on the next video.